Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Jamie Dawn, your revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the week of October 18th through the 24th of 2021, and maybe a few days beyond that. We'll see what energy shows up. And thank you so much for your love, support. Remember, you can find me at jamiedawn.com. And of course, I always enjoy your comments and reaching out to me through social media and on this channel as well. Let's jump in. We've got a big week ahead. It is a full moon in Aries week, but the big news, as we know, Mercury has been retrograde in Libra. Hopefully it's been okay for most people. I haven't gotten any major reports that it's been wreaking havoc on like electronics and things like in transportation and things like that, like it normally does. But I know that relationships and topics around relationships are really high right now. And we have Mercury stationing direct at 10 degrees Libra on Monday, the 18th. This is also a time when Jupiter stations direct at 22 degrees Aquarius. And then Jupiter and Mars being in Libra still, is making a beautiful trine at this 22 degrees. And I think this is also a big day to just talk about the fact that the moon is going to be in Aries canoodling Chiron. So there's a lot of energy here of healing, of topics from the past, communication, expansion, indicates a lot of positive movement forward with our goals and ideas. So if you feel like you've been stagnant, if you feel as though some of the conversations, as I've mentioned in my videos before, have had to be repeated, or there's been many that you've had to say over and over again, or the topic just, it seemed like there wasn't any real traction, we should start to see some positive movement forward now. The other thing we're going to feel the energy building, right? Because we do have a full moon, which I'll talk about in a minute, and that's going to happen on the 20th. So just 2 days after Mercury stationing and Jupiter stationing direct, with this trine going on between Jupiter and Mars. So we're going to feel like we want to use our will. Mars is about the will, and it's about the drive that gets us going. And so we want to use it in the right way in order to manifest in the world. If we're just working from the ego, then we're going to end up manifesting the anger, the shadow side of Mars, which is that god of war, of like, I want what I want no matter what, and we just force our way in. And with Mars and Libra, it's been helping us to teach ourselves and maybe interact with others in a more, I'll say, passive aggressive way, but it doesn't always have to be passive aggressive. It certainly can be more of the negotiating, the softer side of Mars, which is, hey, I want what I want, but let's work together to get this bigger goal accomplished. And with this trine of Jupiter and Mars, that's what we're going to be looking at of, I want what I want, but I also want to make sure that my agenda is in alignment with the bigger agenda. Perfect for this full moon in Aries energy that we have. It's going to be at 27 degrees of Aries and Libra, and the sun will be in Libra. And so there's going to be this feeling of push and pull between me versus we, what I want versus what somebody else may want. Now, the opposition that happens can pull us in one direction or another, or what it can do is it gives us perspective. And this is where Libra and balancing the scales is really good, is that we can actually put ourselves, we can sit on one side and then we go sit on the other side and we get a new perspective. We get a new way of looking at things, maybe putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes. And then the conversation and the interaction is more collaborative because compassion can take over. And what we can see is that when we put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, or we look at it from the other lens, that we're able to have a more educated, well-rounded decision-making process. And this is where the trine with Jupiter and Mars can assist us, because we can look at our opinions and our ideas and we can share them, but then we can ask the question of, and how does this land with you? Or how does this line up with what we're trying to accomplish together? And then We can work to come up with a series of steps or whatever, or understanding that allows us to become a unified force versus divided. Now, we do have to be careful during this time, because those who are not paying attention, or sometimes the energy just builds and we need to release it, that we could become really more aggressive, less assertive. And so the aggressiveness could come out with our forceful opinions, where we're just sharing these ideas and we're going, I have to have it this way. But if we can look at it from a assertive place without being offensive, and that for right relationship, that's more important than the subject matter itself, then we're going to be able to not hold so tightly to our agendas, and that we can say, okay, I have this agenda, I have what I want, and how can it complement what you want? And then what you end up coming up with is a collaborative agenda, which may look very different than what you started out with, but better than. And this is one of those things, this week in particular, I think a big theme is going to be, we don't always get what we want, but we do get what we need. And sometimes what we need and what we get is better than we could have imagined. So keep that in mind as we move into this full moon, as difficult decisions are going to come, and that there's going to be this decision of, do I choose love over fear? What's leading? Is it my head or is it my heart? There's going to be this, again, forcefulness versus gentle persuasion energy. So it's like, I want this in this relationship. Maybe it's, I want a deeper commitment, or I want to feel secure, or I want to actually meet the person, or I want them to declare their love to me, or whatever it might be. Well, we don't want to force somebody into that, because I like to say that you can make me do something, but you can't make me want to do it. The wanting is that spirit, that indomitable will inside of us, that knowing that says, yes, I am emotionally invested, I'm spiritually invested, I'm 100% in. You can't make somebody be 100% in. But what we can do is we can line up our will of what I want and with someone else, or with the higher will. So that's another way of looking at it from a spiritual perspective, is that we're going to be looking at what I want versus what I'm not going to talk God, religion, that sort of thing. When I say higher will, that's the higher consciousness that comes into alignment. So those of you who are watching this and understand what I'm saying, you'll get this. If you don't, it's okay. What I'll offer in putting it in a different format, in layman's terms here, is that when you feel aligned, cohesive, when you feel peaceful, even in the middle of a storm, you're in alignment with the high will and low will. Maybe that's the best way of saying it. We are going to look at this full moon of relationship dynamics that no longer serve us. The ones that their goals, or maybe we've been hanging on to a particular friendship or relationship, romance or business relationship that really has an expiration date. This is a time where we need to let it go. And it may not be easy, especially because we've got a Mars squaring off with Pluto at the end of the week on the 22nd, where it can create power struggles. It can create this idea of force and will. They start battling it out, and circumstances that need to be dealt with show up here. And it could be because we're letting go of something and the other person doesn't want to let go. Or let's say you let go of anybody who's been in a marriage, you let go of the marriage, you have to go through the divorce. Well, you have to do some negotiating. This could be a difficult time because there's an intense passion and desire there that takes over, and there's a fear. And if two people are in a relationship and one person doesn't want it to end, there's a power struggle, right? If it's collaborative, if you're both able to look at each other and say, yeah, I think it's, served its purpose, there's a grief that takes over. There's not an easy way to end something, but there is a way in which we can meet it, and that we can hold the energy and be a witness to each other through that process. And that's the invitation, especially with this Mars squaring off with Pluto, is that if we can realize that we both have power here, or or that we all have power here, and how we respond to things, then instead of creating this, well, it just is what it is, and F you, and whatever, we can say, well, this is what I feel is in alignment, my will and thy will are in alignment. And even if it doesn't line up with your agenda, let's walk through this together. Let's keep some realistic goals. That's that Mars squaring off with Pluto. Passionate pursuits can lead to shaking and waking up some things. So if you're really wanting to pursue something and it doesn't line up with somebody else's agenda, it is going to feel combative. However, you want to be able to use this time, this energy, to continue to realize we all have a purpose, and it's important to, at least what my belief system tells me, is that when we are living on purpose, we feel the most happy, satisfied, and fulfilled. And so that's why it's important that we sacrifice what everybody else wants for us and we start living the life that we're meant to live. That's another big thing for this week, is like the clarity drops in. If you're in that space of going, I don't know, what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I? Why am I here? A lot of those questions may be answered this week because you're creating space with this full moon to get out of your own way and listen deeper to the truth that lives inside of you. We have the sun moving into Scorpio late on the 22nd, early on the 23rd. When the sun is in Scorpio, it's deep, it's penetrating. Scorpio loves to form these strong emotional bonds. And anybody who knows a Scorpio, especially somebody who has a dominant Scorpio energy, there's a control freak in them, and nothing wrong with that. But if that takes over, obviously that can be a little overpowering. But Scorpio wants that emotional stability. It wants to be able to control something so that we can really bond with it, so that we can be of greater service. This is the higher vibration of Scorpio, is that if I can bond with you, I can support you in a way that maybe you didn't even know you needed. Scorpio is very good at being sensitive enough. It's a water sign. It fills in the gaps, right? It can feel everything. It's very psychic. Our psychic energy is going to be ramped way up. Be careful we don't go into paranoia, because that's the shadow side of Scorpio, where it's so deep and so penetrating, and it asks the questions why. But what it does do also is it doesn't always believe what somebody is telling them, especially when the body says, something's off, and that may be true. So you go deeper and deeper. Now, I will tell you, when the sun is in Scorpio, Mars will move into Scorpio next week. I'll talk about that later in the next video. But with all this Scorpio energy, we can easily find out secrets. So if you have been sitting there going, there's a relationship conversation or dynamic, or there's something here that isn't being said, I can feel it though, I just can't put my finger on it. Watch what happens throughout the end of October into November, where secrets start to come out. Loyalty will be rewarded. Betrayal, unforgivable. So if for some reason one of these secrets that comes out for you, it feels like a betrayal, you most likely will cut ties. Now, that is just one negative piece. A more positive piece is that we are going to have Mercury passing over the 12 degrees as it did back at the end of September. And this theme that showed up at the end of September is going to come back to be completed during this time as well. Again, secret, but the positive piece of this with Mercury is that if you feel something is undone, if there's a message from the past, if there's a relationship from the past, if there's something that you've been waiting for, this is a great time for it to show up. And it will be able to give you a sense of completion, a sense of closure. And there's something comforting about having that closure, because you just, sometimes you feel like there's this energy leak that happens when you don't have it. And it can often preoccupy our time. It can preoccupy our mind. It can distract us. And that's one of those annoyances. So I feel like this week will give us the gift of being able to wrap some things up that have been somewhat annoying for a while. We're also going to have the moon sextiling Chiron at this time. So there's a real healing of the mind. The communication can go a long way, and bold or impulsive in our conversations could happen where we suddenly feel like, I have nothing to lose here. Sun is in Scorpio. I want to form a deeper bond with someone, which means I need to be vulnerable. Another theme with the Scorpio energy, vulnerability, intimacy. That's why sex is often associated with Scorpio, because of the passion and the intimacy, but it's deeper than sex. Sex is just the physical expression. This is really about being naked in front of another person, saying, this is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I do. This is, and learning to really deeply form that emotional bond with ourselves. I was talking to a girlfriend the other day and I said, one of the things I really don't like about myself is, and I was sharing this with her, and I said, and now, as soon as I identify it, I have to learn how to love it and turn that weapon into a tool. Why is it that I keep going back to that? Why is it that that disturbs me, or that robs me of my peace? How do I come back to integrating it and allowing it to be there? And even if it takes my peace away from me, can I still love myself through that process? That's what I feel the Scorpio season is going to offer to all of us. How do we take all of these flaws, all these orphan children, if you will, inside of ourselves that we're pushing away, or that we're saying, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't be that way, or whatever. And we start to adopt them and we start to integrate them and we bring them back home. And I think that's another big thing that November will offer to us. But we're going to get a small taste at the end of the week when the sun moves into Scorpio. We'll start to see some of that remnants, and we can't truly start integrating and loving and completely accepting all of ourselves until we close up some things from the past that keep us stuck. Okay. I have just been pontificating. Like I said, this week is a big week. I really want to hear how it works for you, how it's not working for you, how I can support you, whatever you might need. Please come find me at jamiedawn.com. Just know my schedule has gotten extremely tight. So appointments are definitely encouraged, necessary. I do like to make myself available. As you know, I'm at 12Listen for those of you who follow me there. And if you see me there, call. But if not, appointments are certainly welcome. All right, you guys, I hope you have a great week. And yeah, I want to hear about it. Okay, I'll stop talking. Have a great week, everybody.